Hello, my name is Teha. I'm the lead lighting artist on Far Cry 6 at Ubisoft Toronto. Our team was responsible for creating lighting for various aspects of the game, such as the world, characters, cinematics, and UI. We were also responsible for creating weather patterns, which controls the sky, cloud formation, wetness, rain, fog, and so on. Today, I'm going to tell you how we created lighting of Far Cry 6. The world we are going to build for Far Cry 6 was bigger than the previous game. It includes different regions, biomes, and weather variations. The first thing we need to keep in mind for the lighting was that Yara is a tropical island, which means that the sun and the moon need to rise and set at very high angle. Choosing the direction of the sun and moon, rise and set, was an important decision we had to make early on, as it would affect not only the composition of landscape, but also the gameplay elements of our landmarks and point of interest. No one in the team wanted to have their locations or mission objectives that they work on to end up completely hidden in the shades of a huge mountain. The art directors wanted to push the boundary of lighting even further than what we had been achieved on previous Far Cry games. We assigned specific color gradings, sky, fog, weather settings with the help from our 3D and tech team. That's how we ended up having a dry and warm western region, humid and cool central regions, as well as foggy and rainy eastern regions. We also wanted to come up with a unique visual language for lighting in this game, so we started discussing and doing some research based on photos, videos, concepts that inspirational team put together for us. Yara is a tropical island frozen in time where resources are very scarce. We wanted to use this idea as our lighting visual language. For lighting nighttime with artificial lights, we decided to give each faction their own lighting. For guerrillas and civilians, lighting would be somewhat looking chaotic, a mix of bare tungsten and fluorescent tube lamps. There will be also flickering lights or broken lamp here and there. We wanted to have long shadows and small pools of lights with candles, campfires, and so on. On the other hand, the army faction would have their main location entirely lit by electricity, called white LED everywhere. Of course, they have no broken lamps or flickering lights. We also wanted to make it look very repetitive, vertical and straight. It needed to look almost clinical and cold wherever the army presented in the world. With these setups and regional settings, players would feel as if they can tell what regions they're in and whether they are safe in danger. Once this vision was set, we shared it with the rest of the dev team and built our libraries of light, so level arts and level design teams can share their lighting intention with us by them placing those lights from the library where they wanted. After they're done with their pass, it was our turn to go back to those locations and create lighting in the world that they built. In Far Cry world, there is a single infinite directional light always present, which is the sun or the moon. In addition to them, we also need indirect lights for spaces hidden from the sun, like inside a house, cave, etc. What we do is that all the color and intensity of lights are pre-sampled with a certain frequency of times to calculate and render ambient lighting over a 24-hour cycle. The engine does this calculation based on a 3D grid sample points scattered around the entire world. Then we increase the resolution in places where we need a higher details of ambient lighting, such as cave, interiors, or cinematic areas. Since we're using physically based rendering materials, we don't need to control the intensity of the sun and moon, but we could control their speed at given time as well as their angle. We wanted to showcase the beautiful sunset and sunrise in different regions of Yara and make the nighttime gameplay just a little bit longer than what we had in Far Cry 5. So we made sunset and sunrise 3 times longer and nighttime 1.5 times longer. We also decided to make midday just speed up a little bit to limit that moment when the shadows are almost non-existent due to the sun being too high up in the sky. Once we locked the settings for both sun and the moon, we start working more on lighting during nighttime. And you have to remember that the world is huge, which means we have a lot of artificial light to place in the world, in the cities, but also in the wild and along the roads and other infrastructure as well. With the help from the procedural team, we were able to add lights to our power lines tool. So as level artists and level designers were laying out power lines along roads and structures, they were also lighting the surroundings the way they wanted. The tool also allowed them to randomize just a bit by turning off some lights or changing colors, for example. We were able to save a lot of production time on this. We also created light prefabs which contain lights with lamp models in the engine that we shared with the team. We attributed each prefabs to factions like armies or guerrillas and named them to be utilized as electrical or non-electrical, or to be attached to the walls, ground, poles, or ceiling, etc. This also helped the level art team to build their structural prefabs since they know what to include from get-go. These prefabs then gets dropped into the world and we start changing them the way we want and make them fit into the terrain or environment. Allowing players to see all the lights from far away is also one of the achievements we had with our collaboration with 3D team. Our light entities need to be turned off at certain distance from players' point of view in order for us to save some lighting budget in the game. We have to have certain visual entities to represent those lights from far distance. We manually placed a flare entity to represent lights from major landmarks, but the ones for the rest of the light sources were generated by the procedural system, which are done by 3D team. So we didn't have to keep track of each individual position of lights every time when their changes are made. The system was also smart enough to distinguish which lights are inside of the building or structure, so it doesn't need to have light generated when you are far from it. Another big challenge for us was on cinematics. They can be triggered at any given time of day, just like what we've been doing ever since Far Cry Primal. For example, if the player arrives at the mission area at nighttime, the cinematic had to play at nighttime. This means all scenes has to be lit for 24 hours, unless the scene is happening at specific time of day. With this in mind, our cinematic lighting artist has one more challenge to add on top: weather changes. And there are lots of scenes to take care of. First of all, we categorize our scenes by priority with the help of the production team. Higher priority scenes, such as opening, ending, narratively important scenes, are to be lit either by specific time of day and weather changes, or lit 24 hours smoothly. For the moderate and lower priority scenes, we decide to light the scenes with typical midday, dawn and dusk, night, and overcast day settings. This means we would light the same scene in 5 different ways, which it takes 5 times longer. With the help of technical and scripting teams, we can trigger these 5 different lighting scenarios based on the time when the player triggers the scene in-game. We were able to save some time while maintaining our visual quality of the cinematic lighting this way. Among lighting artists, we often say we did a great job when no one mentioned lighting in the game we worked on. Lighting is such a natural element required for games, just like we don't notice the air we breathe every day until its quality changes sometimes. We understand this and try to embrace it to bring our games to next level all the time. I want to shout out to our lighting team in Ubisoft Toronto, 3D, tech, support, production, and the rest of the art team. I also want to thank our teams in Ubisoft Montreal, Kiev, Berlin, Shanghai, Montpellier, Winnipeg, and also many other teams across the globe. It was such a huge project, and without their awesome work and support, there wouldn't be anything for us to achieve. Thank you for watching this video. I hope you enjoyed the work we did to light up the world of Yara.